So MBRP's 3-inch XP Series single exhaust system is currently one of the most affordable factory-style exhaust upgrades if you own a 14 to 18 5.3-liter powered Silverado. Now, as the name implies, you should be checking this thing out if you want something that's going to be nice and loud with a good deep tone to it, but you like the look and feel of that factory exhaust system. And that's a great thing because this is currently the least expensive stainless steel exhaust available. Anything that's going to cost less than this one will be made out of aluminized steel, and aluminized steel will show signs of rust and corrosion a little bit quicker. Now, 409 stainless is awesome. That's factory grade. That's the same stuff that the original exhaust system is made out of, and I'll show you guys how that can stand up to the test of time in a little bit when we do a side-by-side comparison of the original one and the new one. But what's even nicer on this system is the 304 stainless tip. 304 is pretty much the best stuff you can buy, so you get the good looks where it counts. You can polish this thing up. Even if you see a lot of snow or rain, you don't gotta worry about that rust or corrosion anytime soon. Now, as far as volume goes, this gets a healthy 3 out of 5 on my loudness meter. It definitely wakes up the sound of the 5.3 motor, but it doesn't go overboard. And there's also no drone inside the cab, which is awesome if you have passengers, you want to keep a conversation, or you daily drive your truck and you don't want to have that kind of head buzzing every morning on the way to work, right? Now, even though this is a healthy 3 out of 5, it still sounds really deep and throaty. There's no raspy back pressure pops or crackles or anything like that. You get a really old school Lopey idle, and everything stays nice and deep all the way through the RPM band, so you get that nice deep tone no matter what gear you're in. Now, as far as the install goes, there might be some cutting required, but if you have the right cab and bed length, it is a bolt-on kit. If you do have to make that cut, it's very simple. You can definitely do it at home. So for that reason, I'm gonna give the install a 2 out of 3 wrenches on my difficulty meter. Shouldn't take you more than 2 or 3 hours to get this thing bolted up. All right, guys, to install your MBRP kit, you will need a standard drive ratchet, a 5/16 Allen key or Allen head socket, as well as 13 and 15 millimeter deep sockets. Now, optional but very helpful tools include an exhaust hanger puller tool, some spray lubricant, and an impact gun. All right, so there are 2 generally accepted ways to remove your factory exhaust. You could go the fast and easy route and cut everything off, but there's also a way to retain your factory exhaust as one piece. I'm a fan of keeping my factory components whenever possible, so I'm actually gonna show you guys how to unbolt this thing and get it removed without cutting. Now, we're gonna start up here behind our Y pipe. We're gonna remove the clamps securing our factory catback. In order to do that, you'll need a 13 millimeter socket. All right, once you got that clamp removed, we're gonna start pulling the rubber isolators that secure the exhaust hangers of our factory catback. Now, there are a couple here. You got one directly above me here behind this cross member. You got 2 behind the muffler, and then you got one at the tailpipe. Now, if you're doing this by yourself like me, it's helpful to have the exhaust supported by pull jacks or jack stands, but if you have a friend with you, that's helpful too. Just make sure he or she is holding onto the tailpipe when you pull that last rubber isolator. It's also very helpful to have an exhaust hanger puller tool or some sort of pry tool like me, and it's also very helpful to have some spray lubricant. We're gonna spray down all these rubber isolators. We're gonna remove them from all the exhaust hangers. Then we're gonna lower down our catback over the axle. We're gonna push everything back towards the rear of the bumper so that the flex fitting can go over this cross member. Once that's dipped down, we can pull the entire exhaust out from underneath the truck. All right, so with that last rubber isolator removed from our tailpipe here, you can see our exhaust is now technically free from the vehicle. It's only supported by the pull jack behind me, or if you're working with a buddy, in that case it would be your friend. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna lower this thing down, we're gonna let the over axle pipe rest on the axle. Again, we're gonna push everything back towards the bumper so we can get that flex fitting over the cross member, and then we can pull the entire system out from underneath the truck as one piece. All right, we have our factory catback removed, so you can hold on to it if you please. But before we throw our new XP Series system on, we want to mock everything up, and you guys can see where everything is supposed to go, and you can see a nice comparison. So some of the differences between the two, and obviously the big star of the show here is the XP Series muffler. It's a much simpler and much more free-flowing muffler, and that's where you're going to get that extra volume from. Now, as far as tone, the system's a lot deeper sounding, and I love that personally, and that's because we're stepping up our flow tube diameter from 2 3/4 inches up to 3 inches. We're also ditching that factory resonator there on the over-axle pipe. It's going to open up the exhaust even more. So overall, better tone and volume, right? Now, Chevy kind of missed the mark on the factory tailpipe there. There's no tip to speak of, so MBRP did us a solid. They threw in a really nice polished 304 stainless steel tip, by the way. That thing will clean up nicely for years to come. You don't got to worry about rust or corrosion eating that thing out anytime soon. Now, we are working with a 143.5-inch wheelbase truck, so we do not have to cut our mid-pipe. Just keep in mind, if you had a different size truck or a different size cabin bed length, you will have to make one cut to this thing, but we don't have to do that today. So now that we can see these nice comparisons here, we see how this thing's supposed to go together. Let's go ahead and throw it on the truck. We're going to start with our mid-pipe. We are reusing that factory clamp on the Y pipe, so go ahead and grab that 13mm socket and wrench and let's get started. All right, so like I said, we don't have to make any cuts to our mid-pipe, so we can just throw it in place. And again, you're going to be using that 13mm socket to tighten down that factory clamp. But before you throw this in place, you want to grab this hanger and clamp combo kit because that's actually going to be seated in that first rubber isolator that we removed earlier. Now, when you tighten this stuff down, you want it tight enough that this pipe's not going to go anywhere, but you want a little bit of free play in there. It's going to make it a lot easier when we get our muffler in place as well as all of our over-axle pipes and our tailpipe. All right, now we're going to level out this hanger and thus level out this mid-pipe. Once you get this relatively level, you're going to tighten this down with a 15mm socket. All right, with our mid-pipe in place, we can throw our muffler on. Before you throw the muffler on the mid-pipe, make sure you got a clamp on there so you can secure them. Now, you want the MBRP logo facing towards the outside of the truck. All right, with our muffler in place, we're going to hang everything up using our over-axle pipe. Make sure you spray down both of those rubber isolators, make it a lot easier on yourself. And of course, as you can see behind me, make sure you got a clamp on the outlet of the muffler so you can tighten it down once you got this in place. All right, with your over-axle pipe in place, you can throw your tailpipe on and your exhaust tip. Again, before you throw the tailpipe on, make sure you got a clamp on the end of that over-axle pipe. And then once you get the exhaust tip in place, verify everything's lined up and you're happy with where the exhaust sits. Once you've done that, you can tighten down the exhaust tip using a 5/16 Allen key or Allen head socket. All right, once you got your exhaust tip tightened down, go ahead and double check your fitment of the entire exhaust system. Make sure nothing's rubbing anywhere. Then you can drive all those clamps home. Remember in the beginning, we only tightened down that first clamp just enough to keep that pipe in place. We got to make sure that we don't have any leaks back there. So again, just double check all your clamps with your 15mm socket. Use that 13mm socket up front and that'll wrap up the install. All right, so once you got all those clamps tightened down, that'll wrap up the install. And that also wraps up my review of MBRP's XP Series single exhaust system in the factory side exit configuration, fitting your 14 to 18 5.3-liter powered Silverado. I'm Travis, thanks for watching. Keep it right here at AmericanTrucks.com.